guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be diving into something that has been all over the news, the rising tension between Iran and Israel. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about Israel and Iran, how we got here, and why and who this is really for. In 2015, Iran signed an agreement called the JCPOA. They signed that deal with the US, the EU, China, and Russia. The deal basically limited Iran's ability to possess a nuclear weapon, and it put restrictions on the enrichment of uranium. It allowed for constant inspections by a UN body, and it also gave Iran relief for any sanctions that were placed on them. The enrichment of uranium was capped at 3.67%. What is enrichment of uranium? Well, in order for a nuclear bomb to be made, the enrichment of uranium needs to be at 90%. Currently, Iran has about 400 kilograms of uranium enriched at 60%, and Iran has confirmed this, meaning that if they wanted to, in a few weeks they could enrich that uranium further to 90% and create a nuclear bomb. But back to the deal signed in 2015, Barack Obama orchestrated it, and it was never meant to be a final deal with Iran. Obama's position at the time was that it was better to do diplomacy with Iran without nuclear bombs on the table. And in return, with the sanctions lifted, Iran's economy would be able to grow and benefit their people. But a key part I want you to remember is that Iran is under an extremely oppressive authoritarian regime. But back to 2015, which also happened to be the time that Donald Trump was running for president. And at the time, Donald Trump said that this was a bad deal for America, and he campaigned on that a lot. And he promised that should he become president, he would squash the deal, and through economic pressure, he would get a better deal with Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, was also vehemently against this agreement back in 2015. And the reason was because if Iran had sanctions lifted, Israel would no longer be the dominant economy in the Middle East. And it meant that Israel would have to work with Iran rather than isolate them. Donald Trump became president in 2016, and in 2018 he lived up to his campaign promise and he withdrew the US from the agreement. To be clear, Iran had 100% abided by the agreement up until the US pulled out. And within 1 year, Iran began enriching uranium to higher levels. Trump put restrictions and sanctions on Iran to try and force them into a better deal with the United States, but they wouldn't, and in turn, their economy crashed. It caused extreme hardship and poverty throughout Iran on a population that was already under an extremely authoritarian regime. But here's the thing, when the economy crashed in Iran, it started a movement, especially of women and younger generations. They started resisting the regime that was oppressing them and isolating them from the world. And with a crashing economy and poverty at an all-time high, they've been able to gain a massive amount of support. And many believe there are insiders within the regime that are getting ready to overthrow their dictator. There's one poll conducted in early 2024 that surveyed 50,000 people living within Iran secretly, and it found that over 75% of the population, if given the opportunity, would vote against the Islamic Republic. And it found that less than 15% currently support the regime. So why does all this matter? Well, Israel knows that if the people in Iran were to overthrow their dictatorship, there is a possibility that a democratically elected leader could come in and potentially get sanctions lifted on Iran and open them up to the rest of the world. And this would, again, challenge Israel's dominance in the Middle East. Israel's position is that their military operations within Iran could further help the people overthrow their government. But here's the thing, it could actually do the opposite. There is no doubt that Israel's military operations will cause massive civilian casualties within Iran, and it will allow the regime to try and convince the population that they are the only ones who can protect them. It could cause a rallying around the flag effect, and it will also give the regime the ability to force strict crackdowns citing national security. It will give them more power to silence anybody who voices their dissent to them. So why is Israel doing this? Is it the fear of nuclear bombs? Well, maybe. The truth is, Benjamin Netanyahu is becoming extremely unpopular within Israel and especially around the world. He knew that Iran would retaliate the way they did and it would cause civilian casualties, and he is trying to gain sympathy from his own people and around the world. He's trying to change the narrative around again to make people believe that he is the peacekeeper in the Middle East. Today, Israel killed 15 Palestinians trying to get access to humanitarian aid, and yesterday they killed 53. He's hoping that people will turn a blind eye to what Israel is doing in Gaza. The people of Iran are going to be further oppressed with a broken economy and bombs raining down on them. And Benjamin Netanyahu is going to try and improve his popularity in Israel. And you know, Donald Trump, he's just the deal maker in chief. This is just how you get a good deal. Benjamin Netanyahu is a wanted war criminal, and I don't trust a thing that him or Donald Trump says. Meanwhile, I can tell you from a Canadian perspective that I'm sure is shared in America and throughout Europe, if any of our tax dollars go to Israel and the mess that they've created, there is going to be a large uprising of dissent because people are not interested in supporting Israel's genocide.
Israel illegally and criminally attacked Iran this weekend. Illegally because you can't just attack another country. I know Israel's in the habit of doing it, but it's still illegal. Criminal because a lot of civilians, including children, were killed. And nuclear power plants were deliberately targeted, creating this way the risk of a nuclear catastrophe with mass civilian victims. Now this is terrible, and so I was saying, like we did when Russia attacked Ukraine, the European Union will condemn this. But what do I see? No. Ursula von der Leyen even insists on the right of Israel to defend itself. But to defend itself what? They're the ones attacking. They're the ones having the nukes.
Right.
They're the ones threatening to
we are
change.
we are in a procedural point.
No, okay, I agree, but come on. To transform Tehran into Gaza.
Okay.
So we need a vote on this. We cannot just not condemn this and keep on supporting criminal actions that are against international law and against human rights. Thank you.
Behind me is the wreckage from a ballistic missile launched by the Iranian regime. What you can see is a civilian apartment building in Bat Yam, or what's left of it, after a ballistic missile directly hit this building. Numerous people were killed, hundreds were injured, and there are now soldiers behind me digging through the rubble to try to find the bodies of hopefully, survivors from this attack. The difference between us and between the Iranian regime is we are attacking strategic military points in Iran to limit their military capabilities while they are launching rockets at civilian buildings. Now this is just a ballistic missile. Imagine if they had a nuclear weapon. This is what we need to stop. This is what we're fighting for, and we're doing it for the safety of the entire world. I'm Yisrael Chai.
Anyone's in Iran and Tehran, can you let me know what areas have been attacked by Israel? Because my dad is there. I don't know. I can't get a hold of him.
Israel is currently facing cyber attack from Iran. That is why most of their air defense systems are not working effectively. Take it or you leave it. I have to tell you the facts. This is no more the time of playing games with emotions. No. Israel is no longer winning this war. Number one of those targets, which was hit without any kind of interception, is the Mossad headquarters unit. Unit 8200. It was hit precisely without any kind of interception. IDF General Staff Headquarters was also hit in Israel. Israel Defense Ministry was also hit squarely. All these targets were hit without any kind of interception from their air defense system. Israel's Rafale weapon depot was also hit. Their top biochemical facility were hit. Nevatim and Ramat David Air Base was also hit. Pamachain Air Base was hit. Haifa Top Oil Refinery Headquarters in Israel was also hit. So why won't some people accept the fact? This war is no more a kind of thing you play with sentiments. No. Let's look at the facts. Iran says there will be no mercy. It was Israel that attacked Iran first. An unprovoked attack, taking out most of their finest scientists and their top military head. Even after just 2 days of reappointing new military head, Israel also took out the new military head. That is why Iran is being so mercilessly in attacking Israel.
Israel's strikes on Iran's nuclear and military sites are a really big deal. Here are 3 reasons why. First, Israel has been threatening to do this for a long time, saying Iran's nuclear program poses an existential threat to it. Now they've actually done it. The strikes hit locations across Iran, including in the capital Tehran and Natanz, which is Iran's main uranium enrichment site. Several senior military commanders and top nuclear scientists were also killed. For years, Israel has been trying to persuade other countries that taking out Iran's nuclear capability is the right approach. This was Netanyahu talking about it at the UN back in 2012. But the US, Europe, and others have preferred to go down the negotiations route. We saw that with the Iran nuclear deal, signed during Obama's presidency. Trump withdrew the US from that deal in his first term, but earlier this year, he started new talks with Iran as a way to avoid military action. And just a few days ago, he said this.
Look, I want to have an agreement with Iran. As long as I think there is an agreement, I don't want them going in because I think I would blow it. Might help it, actually, but it also could blow it.
Which gets us to the second reason why this is such a big deal. There are questions about how much the U.S., Israel's biggest ally, was or wasn't involved in the decision to go ahead with the strikes. The U.S.'s Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Israel took unilateral action, i.e. it acted alone, and that the U.S. is not involved in Israel's strikes against Iran. So it looks like the U.S. could be trying to distance itself a bit from Israel on this. And keep in mind that the sixth round of U.S.-Iran nuclear talks was scheduled for Sunday. Trump says Israel did tell the U.S. beforehand that it was going to do this. And in the last few days, some U.S. embassy staff were being evacuated from the region. But still, exactly how the discussions between Israel and the U.S. went down in the lead-up to Israel strikes isn't very clear, nor is Trump's position towards Iran right now. In this post, reacting to Israel strikes, Trump says he told Iran to make a deal, but they just couldn't get it done. In the same post, he also called for more diplomacy, saying Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left. Now, the third reason why this move by Israel is such a big deal is because of what Iran's potential response could be. Right away, Iran launched about 100 drones towards Israel, though many were intercepted. And Iran's supreme leader has warned Israel to expect severe punishment. A big question is whether U.S. military bases in the region could also be targeted. And there are a lot of them, including in Gulf countries like Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE. On Wednesday, Iran's defense minister said, if a conflict is imposed on us, all U.S. bases are within our reach, and we will boldly target them in host countries. That scenario would mean direct conflict between Iran and the U.S. on another country's territory. So we'd be looking at all sorts of serious ripple effects across the region.
Okay, so I'm in the middle of Tel Aviv. What you're looking at here is the crater from one of the Iranian ballistic missiles that hit last night. And this is the blast damage behind me, these residential apartment buildings.
They called it the Iron Dome, Israel's legendary missile defense system that was supposed to be impenetrable. But this week, something unprecedented happened. And now Israel faces its worst nightmare. They're running out of ammunition to defend themselves, and literally defend themselves. I don't mean defend themselves 1,000 miles that way. I mean defend themselves. Here's what you need to know about the shocking developments from the last 24 hours as it relates to a potentially failing Iron Dome moving forward. For years, Israel's Iron Dome has been considered one of the world's most advanced air defense systems, successfully intercepting thousands of rockets and missiles. It's not an actual dome, by the way. Just saying this for some who might not have the full picture. It's not like this huge thin helmet over the whole of Israel. The system uses sophisticated radar to track incoming threats, and the launchers fire interception missiles to destroy the incoming missiles mid-air. This is what happens when you have no animation budget. So imagine, Iranian missiles come in, they track them, boom, they send a missile to fire, to intercept it, and boom, 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 and that's the end of it. Sorry about my sound effects. That's not how they sound in real life. But starting June 13th, Iran launched wave after wave of ballistic missiles and drones in a calculated strategy to overwhelm these interception-based defenses. The attacks weren't random. they were designed to saturate the system with more projectiles than it could handle at the same time. Too many at the same time, Iron Dome can't deal with it. Spoon feed them just a few missiles every day. Of course, they'll be able to very capably target each one at the same time. It's a lot like Israel's jets saturating Iranian air defenses over in Iran. Not too dissimilar. The results? A ballistic missile that gets through. Then another, and then another. And then it makes more sense to play air raid sirens across all of Israel's largest cities and order civilians into bomb shelters for hours at a time every day for the last 5 days, because you can't get them all and you've stopped counting how many punch straight through and hit the ground. The country has come to a halt economically, Israel. But here's the crisis Israel didn't want to talk about, but now they're being forced to talk about. They're burning through their interceptor missiles faster than they can be replaced. Even Western media is reporting this, which is alarming for the Israeli narrative. The Washington Post reports that Israel may only be able to maintain its missile defenses for another 10 to 20 days, 20 at best, without new supplies coming in from the United States. An unnamed source revealed the devastating reality Israel is facing. Quote, they will need to select what they want to intercept. The system is already overwhelmed, end quote. Think about that. Israel now has to choose which incoming missiles to actually stop and which to let through, right? Some actually have to be let through. Go on, just hit us. A nightmare decision. Iran has fired at least 370 ballistic missiles at Israel since June 13th, when all this popped off, and each interceptor costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's Western made, so you know it's even more expensive unnecessarily. Some sources suggest Iran might be dropping the daily number of missiles due to a combination of strategic restraint and their missile launchers actually being destroyed in large numbers, meaning it's not actually easy for them to fire as many missiles as they want. But some sources suggest Iran has more hidden cards to play that they haven't revealed yet, and that later missile volleys may suddenly have a lot more missiles fired at the same time to catch the Israelis off guard and overwhelm their systems again. Time will tell. Now, military experts say this all demonstrates a key vulnerability in missile defense. No system is 100% effective against large-scale, coordinated attacks, especially when you start running out of interception ammunition. Iran has studied Israel's defense capabilities well, in detail, and found the perfect strategy. Keep firing until the interceptors run dry. Israel's most advanced defense system is being defeated not just by extremely high-tech and overwhelming numbers, but by simple resource depletion on the Israeli side. The question now is whether this represents a fundamental shift in how modern warfare works, when even the richest nations on earth can't keep up with the cost of defense. For the unbiased news and analysis without the Western spin, I'm Mahfouz, and I'll see you on the next one. Also, someone mentioned, I'm not sure if they're watching till the end here, but someone mentioned that it's not called a decapitation strike, what I said Israel was trying to do against Iran. It's called a decapacitation strike. Decapacitation strike is not a word commonly used, though I understand what you were getting at. I did mean a decapitation strike. You said decapitation strike is not the right word because you're talking about cutting the head off something, like you could decapitate a chicken or a cow if you're slaughtering it. No, I meant exactly that. The term decapitation strike comes from that, cutting off the head of something. So in this case, in this context, the Israeli attempt to now I'm messing about with it. Now, in this case, the Israeli strategic objective to decapitate the Iranian leadership was exactly that. It's like cutting off the head of a nation's military capability. And also, I read loads of comments. I can't read them all, but I read loads of them. Thank you for your continued support, guys. It means so much to me. It really helps keep me motivated, because this takes a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of fact-checking before I can actually post even, 5 minutes takes an hour a lot of the time. And that's the sacrifice my family are being patient with. That's the sacrifice I'm being patient with. So keep me in your prayers, keep supporting me, and I'll see you on the next one.
Israel has just bombed Iran's state-run TV headquarters while the cameras were rolling. Anchor Sahar Emami kept delivering the news, refusing to evacuate until the blast ripped through the studio. She ducked, dust filled the frame, and only then did she step away for about 10 minutes. Then she came back on air from a backup set, voice steady, clothes still streaked with debris, to finish the broadcast and tell viewers some of her colleagues were hurt. Picture this happening to BBC News in London or CNN's Atlanta HQ in the middle of a live newscast. We'd call it an attack on free press, a brazen strike on civilian infrastructure, a red line moment for NATO. But because it's Tehran, the story risks getting buried under geopolitics. Imami's defiance isn't just brave, it's a mirror. If we believe journalism is a pillar of democracy, then bombing a newsroom is an assault on that democracy, whether it's in Iran, the UK, or the US. So remember Sahar Emami's name. She stayed on the mic when the missiles hit. The real question is, will the world stay on the mic for her?
Now, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei has warned that any U.S. intervention in the conflict with Israel would be met with serious consequences. He said they do not respond to threats and they will not accept any imposed peace or war. This is an unprecedented aerial war fought across hundreds of miles. Overnight, a barrage of Israeli missiles streaked across the skies of Tehran, taken out by Iran's air defense system. Iran retaliated with another wave of its own missiles. Sirens blared here in Israel, warning they were on the way. Then intercepted in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and the occupied West Bank. With their cities under fire, Iranians are counting a steadily escalating human cost. And while Israel is able to inflict far greater pain on Iran, it has not been immune to it. 90-year-old Bella Ashkenazi and her husband Chaim were asleep in this apartment block near Tel Aviv when an Iranian missile smashed through it on Sunday. Bella did not survive the strike and was buried in an emotional farewell.
She's amazing.
Ashkenazi's granddaughter Shani Bwana told us her grandparents were both too frail to keep going to their bomb shelters.
I wish I could turn back time and to take her to the safe room.
You're very stoic about this new war that Israel is engaged in, but it's also taken your grandmother.
I'm going to miss her a lot, but I still think that we need to do what it takes to stop that threat.
Now, Israel has advised its citizens to remain close to bomb shelters, and the U.S. Embassy said it will be closed from today until Saturday.
It's around 0400 on Monday morning here in central Tel Aviv. We heard a loud boom from the air raid shelter, and you can see the level of destruction that's been wrought by presumably Iranian missiles here in central Tel Aviv, the country's major city. Emergency workers are flooding into the scene. We've seen fire and rescue teams particularly trying to find out what's going on in those buildings over there. You can see the facade of 3, 4 what look like residential apartment blocks have been totally torn off. No signs of life in there at the moment. We see the odd flashlight at the top of the building. You can see that the water mains have burst. We're seeing these floods of water coming down here. You can see over to the left there the hose that's coming out from the fire service or from the broken mains flooding into the building. There's almost nothing in the entire 360-degree area that hasn't been touched. An office block, cars destroyed, and this is the reality for so many Israelis now, not just once a day, but multiple times a day.
What is happening between Israel and Iran is scary, and it's confusing, and it's real. And in war, no side wins when innocent lives are lost. If you've lost someone or your home isn't safe, I am sorry, and I wish I could do more than just speak, because no one deserves to suffer like this. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys stay safe, and I will see you on the next one.